5 musicians are making their way to the Abbey Road Studios, London. Here in the legendary Studio 2, they're laying down tracks for a new CD called The Peasant Girl. It's the latest project of cellist, arranger and adventurous musical experimenter Matthew Barley and his wife, the internationally renowned violinist Viktoria Mullova.
I think we should do another one, and I think, you know, even though we're a bit tired, I think we should actually just go for something totally otherworldly, magical, like do something really unusual with it.
Constantly busy with their own separate careers, for Matthew and Vika, this is only the 3rd time they've worked together on a shared project.
We had a project called Through the Looking Glass 10 years ago, and that was the first time that I'd written all these arrangements for Vika and sort of brought her into what is, in effect, my musical world, which is the world of improvisation, working with non-classical musicians and kind of mixing it all up a bit.
It was like a liberation for me, because for the first time I was on stage playing the music I usually loved to hear on my headphones, and being able to be free and improvise a little bit, which was very hard at the beginning. The idea was to have a theme, a gypsy, Hungarian folk music.
The history of the violin is so inextricably linked with gypsies. I mean, it was the Rajasthani gypsies who brought the violin over to Europe 1,000 years ago, or the instrument that eventually turned into the violin.
There's a gypsy-like passion in her classical playing, which I don't hear from most other players. You hear brilliant virtuosity, fantastic technical skill, but there's a bit of wildness in there that just gets you. Is it something that she knew about herself, do you think?
I don't think so.
Or that she'd thank people for saying? I mean, maybe...
I don't know. Well, you'll have to ask her that one. But I think, I mean, for me, I think that's a really interesting question, because a lot of people I think they misunderstand the whole gypsy music thing. A lot of the gypsies are very still when they perform because they keep that brilliance and that passion inside to come out through the music.
Well, that's the beauty of Victoria's playing, is that she's an incredibly focused musician, you know, and what I love about watching her is that there's absolutely nothing staged about the way that she plays, you know. It's all about making the best sound from the instrument and being honest and true to the music.
I was actually tutoring the National Youth Orchestra in the mid-90s and saw Sam playing there aged 14 and thought, wow, that's talent. Julian is one of my favourite long-time collaborators and, as you know, a very, very close friend.
And I, as a jazz musician, fundamentally have grown up learning classical music, having a great appreciation for it, and sometimes even performing it. But certainly coming into a situation where the musicians such as Matthew and Victoria are really entrenched in that tradition, it's great because you kind of get showered with the real thing, and vice versa. I hope that what I have to offer can give them a window into some of the things we do in jazz.
Yeah, definitely vice versa, because from knowing Matthew and Vika for a long time, knowing Matthew for a long time, and where he was musically with the very avant-garde stuff that he was doing, and him reaching out to jazz, he's a completely different sensibility now than he was even 2 or 3 years ago.
Absolutely. He is a journeying musician. He needs to travel to the things that really interest him, that fire him up.
That was beautiful, wasn't it?
So we can stay with that?
I think we should do more.
More.
Yeah, so can you do the top, get that as you want, and then we'll come down and do the...
Paul Clarvis, I mean, is a drummer of incredible personality, knowledge, intelligence, and soulfulness. And he is a musician who primarily would be identified with jazz music, but also his investigation into different kinds of world music cultures and the varying kinds of drums and colors that he can get, and just create an absolute rainbow of sound.
Hello, is you getting enough bottom end out of this? So I'm underneath everybody. I'm not in front pulling them, I'm behind pushing them. Or behind just holding it. But things need to keep moving. Things need to always be moving. They should never be, I don't think they should ever be static. But my job is just to provide this comfortable cushion, if I can.
It's probably a good thing they have already performed this programme a number of times. In just 2 days, they're scheduled to lay down 10 tracks.
Matthew, you don't do this, your stuff when you do on the string, like, you know.
You mean...
You don't do that?
No, I didn't like it.
It was so good before.
I know, you always like that. I hated it.
It was fun.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
It just sounds like I
No,
can't play
it's
the
like
notes.
normal. It's not normal now, kind of.
Yeah, I was just going.
What do you think?
Whose side are you on?
I'm out of this
Let's
one.
try. Same thing.
Yeah, no, I'll try it. Okay.
Okay, shall we do this?
Yeah. How about if we go?
Yeah.
I discovered them about 20 years ago or something, and that was when I was in a phase of really listening to gypsy music. I used to travel a lot to Belgrade, and one of the things me and my mates used to love to do was to go down to the gypsy boats on the Danube and have dinner and drink there till 6 in the morning, and the real old, the hardcore gypsy musicians would be playing there. The inclusion of Life by Yusundur, possibly a strange choice, but in fact there is a musical reason. As the gypsies came towards Europe hundreds of years ago, some of them split off and left their musical traces in North Africa, and I think that's what we hear in the use of the gypsy scale in this track. I like that. That was great fun.
A little bit out of tune.
I like that. There was one little bit, but you could just chop that out probably.
Yeah. It's just
The thirds.
Yeah.
Is it worth having a quick listen?
Come on.
Yeah.
You've got to be out of tune somewhere on the album. It makes everywhere else sound more in tune, doesn't it? You have to have something to compare it to.
And the thing is, you're playing with the notes as well. You're playing quarter tones.
No, sometimes
it's just out of
on
tune.
purpose I'm out of tune,
Yeah.
but this one was not on purpose. That was.
Yeah, but they don't need to know that. Do you?
You get fantastic. So nearly saved it. Great thing about Weather Report is that the whole spirit of Weather Report was bringing things together. You know, they were called jazz fusion, but really it's a concept that's much bigger than a label, because it's just about finding out what you love and putting it all in the same place. So, you know, that Weather Report embraced obviously hardcore jazz, but also lots of influences of world music, gypsy music, all sorts of things were able to come into that melting pot.
And funk music,
And funk.
which is unusual for jazzers.
Yes, that's right.
It's got a lot more sort of just groove.
Absolutely, yeah. Great.
What should I do? Should leave it behind.
Just go.
No, I think I should do. No, I can't. I can't do that.
What does Victoria do with her microphone when she goes to the loo?
When I first came out, I was doing a pantomime. I was 18, this bloke was seeing you.
Thank you.
That's great.
Django is, I mean, it's one of the most famous jazz tracks of all time, written by John Lewis from the Modern Jazz Quartet as a tribute to the late great Django Reinhardt. But the version I loved, again, it's Brach. And that one is slightly unusual in that I gave the violin and cello equal parts. So we're swapping around all the time. So it feels a little bit like I was going to say a love story. It feels something like that, because we're really, really in exactly the same place, and we need to really tune into each other to make that one work. Specifically, you know, I play a little phrase and I've got to end it in such a way that she can just literally pick up the note and then take on the next phrase. So it's got to sound like one instrument, even though it's two. And this is another one, this is another track that Vika's eyes would just light up, by Du Oud from their album Wild Serenade. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me for ages how this was going to work in an arrangement, because it's full of electronic beats, and that's tricky to translate successfully onto acoustic instrument. And the other person who absolutely loved this track was our youngest daughter, Nadia. I was always singing the refrain, the dum bum bum ba dum bum bum ba dun 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 bum bum. And every time I sung it, Nadia would look at me, and she, after a few goes of that, obviously she got it and she joined in as well.
So it's great being at Abbey Road.
Fabulous. Dream come true, actually, for a lifelong Beatles fan.
Yeah.
And
being in that studio with that
the very one
desk
very
and all
one,
the
yeah,
furniture's
wonderful.
exactly the same as it.
Yeah.
You know, it's
And
exactly
best
like the
thing-
album covers.
The best thing is that, as well, obviously they're totally state-of-the-art gear, but it's a fantastic natural acoustic as well.
It's got a feeling like you're in a mecca
It
of
has.
recording, and it's nice to see the effect that has on Vika, because of course she's being encouraged to do stuff that she's is very much out of her normal comfort zone, whereas she'd normally be playing on a very
Absolutely.
note perfect,
Totally,
not
totally.
able to deviate from that. What are you learning from her being there, do you think?
I don't know if you're a table tennis player, but you know when you play ping pong with somebody really good, you play better. Not
Yeah,
saying
no,
much,
I
maybe,
know
but
the theory, yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's like that with Vika, because whatever Vika does, she brings such an incredible quality to her playing, and everyone's just excited to play with her.
Although this current project has been a way for Matthew and Vika to work together, for Matthew, it's more than this.
How was it?
Amazingly good.
It's his way of honouring and celebrating Vika's personal journey.
Their partnership is amazing, Matthew and Vika. She's the perfect vehicle for his imagination. She is the heartbeat that everything revolves around.
We were just sitting here with some friends one evening discussing Vika's background and talking about the fact that only a couple of generations ago her ancestors were peasants in the Ukraine, and living very close to the earth, living off the earth. And then it was that conversation coupled with the fact that I suddenly realised, oh, the main track we're working on is called The Peasant, and that's when we thought of calling it The Peasant Girl.
I only discovered now that actually this background of mine is really strong influence on how I listen to the music and what I like, because my families came from Ukraine and from peasants. My grandmother didn't even know how to read or write. When I was a little girl, my mother actually gave me a nickname, which was a gypsy, little gypsy, because my character was like a little gypsy. The way I would like to run around and travel, I love traveling. So a little bit of gypsy spirit is in me, I think.
Vika's musical talents were recognized early, and it was her father, Yuri, who took responsibility for encouraging and helping her.
When I started to study music, when I started to have lessons with my father, and it was very disciplined, I mean, very far away from gypsy spirit.
When she went along to her first lesson, the teacher said, this will only work if you come along to her father. This will only work if you come along to every single lesson and if you sit with Vika through every single practice session. And he made that commitment straight away.
Even though he was not a musician himself, he was an engineer and basically took this job of going to all the lessons. And he was practicing with me every day.
And how much practice every day?
You know, studying was 2-3 hours a day, and at that age, it's really a lot.
Age 4.
Yeah, and it was very, very disciplined, so not gypsy at all.
But she excelled, and after many years of rigorous and dedicated study on the part of Vika herself and her father, she gained entry to the famous Moscow Conservatoire. In 1980, she won the Sibelius competition in Helsinki, and in 1982, the gold medal in the Tchaikovsky competition. Then, a year later, aged 22 and already becoming internationally recognized, she created a sensation. Performing in Finland, she and her then lover, a fellow musician, defected to the West. Evading their minders, they slipped across the border into Sweden.
And the actual defection, I mean, was an incredible story because it was very sort of John le Carré and in the middle of the night and across borders, and it was dangerous. It was genuinely dangerous.
Were there repercussions for her family?
There were repercussions for her family. Her father lost his job. Her father was an aeronautical engineer, a job that he got back later on. But for a while, he was repairing park benches and things.
I guess it would be hard for them. I didn't expect it to be that hard, as it turned out. later on I found his letters and his diaries, and came back after the Gorbachev and Yeltsin and after Perestroika.
It was some time before Vika was able to return to Russia. While she was in the West, Yuri, her father, had developed cancer. She now felt the need to be with him as much as possible.
And it was extraordinary sort of reflowering of this whole relationship. And I never fully realised, you know, just the closeness that must have happened then in all those early years of her life. And it was all just regrowing at the end of his life.
Last 10 years, gradually we became closer and closer. Last few years, 2 years, we were very close, like really incredibly close.
And so one of the most beautiful songs in the piece is dedicated to your dad.
Yeah, we played it for the first time when he died, actually. It was like the day before he died, we played it at the concert, which is heartbreaking.
I think it'd be beautiful. Should I go and have a listen? Yeah, we can. I mean, even we can slot that in dead easy.
They will do this justice, huh? Definitely.
One of the really enjoyable things about the project is that the way it's such a blend of Vika and myself, and both musically and kind of personally as well, and that you know, the way Vika plays the violin, the way Vika was trained to play the violin, and for me to rehearse that and play with you has been fantastic. But also the whole other side of it, the improvised stuff, the non-classical side, is also obviously really prominent, and it's the blend of those two things that makes it so enjoyable. And I think the other guys, they love that.
Those three guys know you well.
They do.
Yeah.
And I think that really shows, so that they understand the dynamic of your relationship well, as much as any outsider can. But they really encourage the two of you together, don't they?
Yeah.
We've toured with them for years, so
They've seen everything.
they've pretty much
all
seen
the fights.
So they're not frightened.
Screaming.
They're not frightened, no, not at all. But that's actually great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it means you can relax. And it's also really nice because it's one of those projects where they're really excited to be working with us, but we're really excited to be working with them. So
Everybody
it kind of
feels like we're all lucky.
That's right, yeah.